So somebody asked on my TikTok, can burnout lead to depersonalization realization? Could be spiritual burnout, could be financial burnout, could be relationship burnout, could be all kinds of burnout. The answer is yes, but I want us to zoom out a little bit. It's technically overwhelming stress in the brain, body, and nervous system that causes depersonalization realization. So it's not so much about the burnout, it's about what was on the other side of that burnout. If you are so burned out, again, in your career, in your relationships, spiritual burnout, so maybe a spiritual leader or something, that you feel trapped and you feel overwhelmed like you can't escape, absolutely. You may enter a state of traumatic stress, which is a trauma response. It's also called the freeze response, and start to experience depersonalization realization. But you can also be burnt out and not experience depersonalization realization if that doesn't lead to overwhelming stress in the brain, body, and nervous system. The same with drugs, for example. So the first time that I started to experience depersonalization realization, it was due to a bad experience with marijuana in 2008. But there are tons of people, millions and millions of people, that smoke marijuana and do all kinds of drugs and don't experience depersonalization realization. In fact, my friends who were smoking marijuana with me didn't experience depersonalization realization. I was the only one. And because I didn't have this understanding that it was actually overwhelming stress in the nervous system that is what caused it, I used deductive reasoning and thought, okay, my friends must have laced the weed with something. How else could you explain me having this extreme reaction where I felt out of my body, everything felt fake and dreamlike, time felt distorted. It was like I was watching my life on a movie, but yet they were fine. And that's the problem with not having the right neuroscience. That's actually part of what I teach my clients. It's actually the very first thing that I teach them is a 21st century understanding of trauma and depersonalization realization. Because if you don't have a 21st century understanding of what's going on, your anxious mind is going to fill in the blanks with all of these beliefs that are actually not accurate and actually do nothing but fuel fear and shame as it relates to the symptoms. So what ended up happening is whenever I started to feel my heart pounding out of my chest, I first tried to look to my friends to calm me down. That didn't work. That's the frontline defense that we use whenever we feel stress, is other people to calm us down. Then I started to pace back and forth, and I started to kind of fight or flee, and that didn't work. And I started to scream, call an ambulance, call an ambulance. My friends wouldn't call the ambulance, and it was at that point that I felt trapped. And whenever I felt trapped and overwhelmed, that is the moment that my brain's like, okay, we have a procedure for that. It looks like this ship's going down, just like the Titanic and the lifeboats getting away from the Titanic, even though they didn't have enough lifeboats, and there was plenty of room on that door, Rose. You should have moved over. My brain started to dissociate me, and it was actually overwhelming stress that caused the DPDR.